Local radio for Sittingbourne, 106.9 SFM.
Now, Simon Martin is a photographer. He's got a project under the auspices of Ideas Test down at number 34. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning.
So, tell us a bit about your history as a photographer.
I graduated from university in 2013. I studied in Canterbury, originally done a foundation before that, and then went off to Middlesex in London. And I've come back and started kind of doing work locally and documenting more the town as it kind of progresses, and how I've started to grow up and start to question the idea of home and where I live and where I'm moving on to and things like that, and becoming an adult. So what I'm doing at Ideas Test at the moment is a portrait series, talking to local people about the town and how they've come to love it or hate it, or what they think about it, if they've just moved recently or lived here all their lives. So it's quite interesting, and then taking a portrait and displaying that on the walls within Ideas Test.
Where did the interest in photography come from?
I left school and I hadn't really found my feet yet of what I wanted to do, and I'd done the foundation course and picked up a camera and just kind of fell in love. I was quite lucky, really, and I've continued to work with it since.
A lot of people take a lot of pictures now on their mobiles. Are we as creative as we might be, or do we just basically want to photograph our lives as we live them?
I think, yeah, even more so. There's so many more kind of avenues for people to display their work now because of the internet and things. It's so much more accessible to people, and without people realising they are a lot creative. Everyone does document their lives on a daily basis, so I think it's a lot more creative.
And this has kind of come from I think probably the Far East. And I remember being on a trip to Australia about 10 years ago, and there was this chap sitting next to me. I was on a coach trip, and he was taking pictures sort of across me out the window, and I said, look, you know, you're clearly more interested in taking pictures than I do. Do you want to swap places? And he was, yeah. And then when I looked at some of my pictures, and I took a lot more than I normally do. I took about 1,000 in this sort of 2 months, many of which I sort of, and I thought to myself then, well, I've been deleting them as I've been going along. And this is the thing about digital photography. It doesn't, you don't have to be frugal, do you, as you would do with old-fashioned film. And I did find that I was taking, sometimes, occasionally, without realising it, I was taking pictures of people taking pictures.
Well, there's interest in a lot of things, and there's a huge variety of works that people make in things that you never would have even thought to document. So everyone's used to document everything. You see how it's kind of become more throwaway with digital, but still people collect a lot of things, even in their everyday lives, their meals, what they're driving, where they're going, and even with online videos now and things like that, like Instagram stories. It's quite interesting to see people having to document everything they do.
Stories are good, but I sometimes still get a bit fed up with just seeing this is my plate of food in this particular pub on that day, because that it's interesting to you at the time, but it might not be interesting to the people that see it on your social media site.
Of course. So it's people kind of live streaming their lives, isn't it? There's televised nation now, isn't it? So we're used to everything being online. So people always want to see what other people are doing. It's always interesting when it's not your life.
So your project, what do you think is the end game of it?
It's kind of a neutral look at how the town's developing. I think it's a bigger picture. Sittingbourne's quite similar to a lot of other towns with a rich industrial past and still a slight industrial present, and obviously there's people coming in now and commuting and things. As London expands and the prices in London get so expensive, the towns outside start to see the flow of commuters coming in. So I wanted to look at a town over a period of, say, 14, 15 years, and how it develops and how it changes, and kind of start talking about these development plans that have been in place for quite a long time now, and people are interested in, and they want more from their town. And you hear a lot of people talk about Sittingbourne in certain ways, and as well as kind of documenting the landscape and the buildings and the constructions that are going on, the housing and the roads. I wanted to start talking to people at this point in time. It's quite a pivotal point, I think, because a lot of houses are going up and people are questioning when the developments are coming, and then do the same thing looking at the end of the development period, however long that is, and start talking to people then and see how mindsets have changed. Have things been achieved? Is it positive? Again, is it negative? So that's the idea, to kind of document this process that happens all across the UK.
And of course, I mean, there are trends, aren't there? I mean, I, for example, have noticed in the 4 years that I've been travelling to Sittingbourne, how very gradually the green belt between here and Rainham and Newington is disappearing. Once you get past the industrial estate, that was quite green, but now it's there's an awful lot of new houses going up, and you talk to people locally that live out in the villages, and they get very protective of their green spaces and think, oh well, there's another several hundred houses, and yet we need them, and it's that constant battle, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's trying to keep everyone happy, and I've noticed that, like you say, people complain about the green belts getting taken away or green areas, which is a shame. But if they want more life into the town, things like that, it's to and fro really. If you want more things to come into the town, they need more houses. But at the same time, those areas are getting built on because all the other areas that maybe are less well off have been built up onto already. So you can't have it all. But it's interesting to see what people say and how that can be protected and how we can hold on to areas like that.
I mean, the other thing I think with towns like this is, of course, when you regenerate towns and when you sort of change them, the big thing in the 1980s was everybody wanted everything in the same place. So we built big out-of-town complexes with big supermarkets, big shopping malls, cinemas, restaurants, etc., which of course sucked the life out of the high street. And now people say, oh, we want more life in the high street, but they actually still want lots of car parking for not very much, and everything in the one place. It's a difficult dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah, it is quite tough. I think Sittingbourne, obviously quite a small town in itself, so with the shopping area it is, and it is sad to see the high street in the state it is. I think a lot of people are talking about that as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the area develops and if there's somehow some life can be sprung back into the high street.
And do people have good ideas, or is it often just what a wonderful place in equal measures? Or what do you think are people's general opinions of the town?
So far, talking to a few people, it's a real mixed bag, and from walking around and talking to different people, obviously everyone wants something different from the town, and it's interesting to hear the positives and the negatives and what they want, how long they've lived here. And I find a lot of newcomers love the town because of what it is and its flavour to it, and I think that kind of mentality will start bringing in new energy to the high street and new energy to the town, whereas people that have lived here for a long time are kind of tired of hearing the same old ideas of developments and the same old excuses for why they haven't started. So it's real interesting, but I think it could go either way. I'm not too sure how people are really hoping for it to go so far.
And if people want to take part in your project, how do they do so?
I'm going to be in number 34 on the High Street today and tomorrow from 11 till 3. So if you fancy coming down and having a chat about the town and giving your thoughts and hopes about it, if you've only just moved here, or if you've lived here all your life, have a long history here, you can come down and have a chat. And the idea is to have a chat, handwrite down a kind of message or a statement that you want to display, and then if you're happy to, have your portrait taken. If not, you don't have to, and then those images and statements are going to be displayed over number 34 until January, I believe.
And you're going to put them up on a website anywhere so people can look at them long term?
Number 34 will kind of own a few handprints and things, and they'll have the digital copies as well. But I'm going to try and keep it as an archive. In the long term, the project will be put into a book. I'm not sure if the portraits will be included yet, or if they should do, but I will like to display them in some way because it's interesting to see other people's thoughts.
And if people want to know more about your photography, you have a website and social media? It's
simon-martin.org is my website, with personal work on, and you can find my Instagram and Facebook and things on there if you're interested.
Well, good luck with the project, and we better let you go back to number 34 in case you've got a queue going out the door. Simon Martin, have a great Christmas and 2017, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.